Hey, all of you out in Star Wars Nerdland, and I am including myself in that. I want to talk today about something that came up yesterday because of the era battles that just happened, where CX2 was he was in the drop tables even before his marquee event, and it led to some really interesting discussions with people about crystal costs and how the game is run, and what exactly CG is doing right now, and why they're seemingly making less money and giving away more for free. Now, if you're like me, I got very lucky and I did unlock CX2 early. I haven't tested him. I haven't played with him. He's sitting there with no mods at basically the highest level I can get him at. Side note, his Omicron is bugged, I guess, since it is not 10 cost. It is its old cost of 20. But essentially, with these new era battles, a lot of people are wondering, hey, this doesn't make sense. CG is giving us all this stuff for free. What's the catch? And there really isn't so much a catch as it is a change in monetization strategy. Keeping in mind, of course, that these events were refreshable, and that is a bug that'll be around for one more event before going away. It's just a change in how the game was versus how the game is, and that's kind of what I want to talk to you guys about today. So what we're going to do is use a lemonade stand as a stand-in analogy for CG and the way that they sell marquee packs. And before we get into that analogy, I really do want to stress that we're talking about converted crystal cost. And what converted crystal cost is essentially, even if you get crystals for free in game, they do have a monetary value based upon the value of purchasing them. Obviously, yes, you can get a marquee, you can get a pack without having spent a single dollar. But we still want to convert it to a dollar value so we can see if specific packs make sense to purchase. Now, I don't know if anybody remembers, but way back 5 years ago, 6 years ago, even 9, 10 years ago, it was pretty much accepted: only spend your crystals on refreshes. And that's changed over the years, with daily deals being a pretty good value sometimes, 500 crystal relic packs being a very good deal most of the time, marquee events giving you goodies if you invest a little early, and now era battles. So basically what we're saying is you're going to be spending your crystals in so many more places that even if you don't drop $50 specifically on the marquee pack, you are more likely to spend somewhere because your resources are pushed more thin, right? And we're going to be using averages and a lot of assumptions, really just to stress the idea that CG is going for, because we don't have their revenue numbers, right? So with that said, let's go to Egnards Lemonade Stand. Egnards opens up a lemonade stand. Where he opens up that lemonade stand, there's about a market of 10,000 people. He's not going to capture that market of 10,000 people, but he sure as hell is going to try, right? And Egnards, being a smart guy, he decides, you know what, I'm going to sell that lemonade for $285 per cup. Now, that $285 represents the cost of getting a marquee character from their marquee level to 330 shards, right? 0 to 330 would be about $300, $330, but you get that free marquee, those marquee shards. You purchase all of the packs to get them up, and as an average, it's going to cost $285. You can get lucky, right? There are people that buy one pack, there are people that buy two packs, and they sometimes get lucky and they sometimes get 330 shards, and that's awesome for them. But the general average is going to be $285. Now, Egnards does something else with his lemonade stand. He basically says, listen, I know that you maybe can't spend $285 up front. So if you wait a little while, I'll make it cheaper for you. You purchase it today, I'll make it cheaper for you on the back end, right? So I'll pay you for a hamburger tomorrow, for one today, right? Or whatever the reference is there. And each of those numbers represents something different. So that $135 is your shipment cost, which is about a month approximately after a marquee. That $44 represents doing 3 refreshes a day and the crystal cost of getting those things. $25 represents the cost of getting the marquee with 2 refreshes. That $13 is the cost of getting that marquee with 1 refresh per day. And that $0 represents a full free-to-play farm. And you'll see that each of those is associated with a different amount of time. Now, you may be saying, hey, wait a second, Egnards, right? What about, like, it's supposed to be 6 months, or it's supposed to be this? Those things are based on after a character becomes farmable, right? So we're talking about the time it takes from marquee all the way to when you are going to get it. And they're averages. They're not exact. RNG does play a role sometimes. They're just the idea and the expectation. Now, what we are going to say here is that in this scenario, obviously very few people are going to buy that lemonade for $285, right? Let's assume that about, 1% of people purchase that, right? So we'll go back to our lemonade stand, and about 1% of people purchase that first lemonade for $285. Those represent our whales. Those are the people that keep these servers running. Now, I'm sure those numbers are less than 1%, but we want to keep the numbers as easy as possible. And what we're basically saying is that if 1% of those people, or 100 people out of 10,000, purchase that $285 lemonade, Egnards makes $28,500, right? And that's pretty good on lemonade. That's freaking awesome. I made quarters when I was doing lemonade stands as a kid. We're also going to assume that about 2% of people spend at each of the other levels. So shipment farming, 3%, 3 refreshes, 2 refreshes, 1 refreshes. I'm going to assume that 2% is probably semi-accurate for the shipment farmers, but it's probably much higher for all of the different refresh levels. And if we do that, we're going to say that Egnards now makes another $43,400, or a total of $71,900, right? And that's pretty damn good. I made lemonade, $71,000. Awesome. Freaking love it, right? And that's how the game worked for a very long time. I started January 1st, 2017, and that's the way it worked all the way up until last year when the Gungans were released. And hallelujah, it really helped me to be able to jump on those characters literally for free, right? I was able to get all of them day one, R9, everything, probably one of, if not the first person in the world, having spent nothing on it. But again, we talk about converted crystal cost. So let's go back to our lemonade stand, and let's say that Egnards, he sees, the market's kind of changing a little bit. And he decides, listen, we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to sell this lemonade for $217 instead, right? So for $217, you can get that lemonade literally on day one. And this is representative of the new marquee events that go on for a week. Now, the people buying that lemonade for $217 are a very, very, very small amount. Okay, those are like our Arnold T's. Those are our mega whales that need to have the character in before their GAC lock, and they want it literally right away. They do not care about the new 1 week delivery option that comes from waiting over the week of doing a marquee. But there is an extra upside to this, because now Egnards is saying, hey, listen, if you buy this lemonade for $217, I'm going to give you a pretty large amount of extra stuff every day for the next week, right? So that lemonade that used to cost us $285 now costs us $217, and I get extra free stuff on top of that. That is going to incentivize people, right? But I'm also offering a few different options. I'm saying, hey, you can do this in 120. You can do this in 1 week for about half the price, $128. Okay, and that's the marquee event, and getting to 6 stars and 10 shards and waiting throughout the week. And if you do it that way, you'll even still get some of the goodies along the way. Not as many as the person who does it on day one, but you're still gonna get some pretty cool stuff. And that incentivizes people pretty heavily, right? And you'll see our downline here with the money and the costs over time. $128, so pretty much roughly the same for that 1 month delivery, but you get no goodies. $42 for 3.5 months, $24 for 4 months, $12 for 5 months, $0 totally free 7.5 months. But CG has done something interesting here, because they're now incentivizing people not just getting to 7 stars right away, they're also incentivizing people kind of getting a little bit further, right? So that's your buy enough packs to get to 4 stars as an example. And CG is essentially saying with that, listen, if you pay us $23 up front, or $23 in converted crystal cost, we will get you your stuff just a little bit faster. And you'll see that the prices actually go up when we talk about converted crystal cost. Again, the argument is those crystals, they can be free. A lot of people do use free crystals. I can't necessarily account for that. I can only account for the crystal itself. So we see that the costs have gone up just a little bit, but the delivery times have gone down by an average about half of a month to a month. Okay, and a lot of people are doing that now. They're saying, wait a second, if I buy 2 packs, sometimes 3 packs, I can get this character a lot faster, and I'm gonna get a couple of goodies along the way. Nothing too great, and it's been largely worth it for a lot of people to do it that way, especially with characters being required for events or raids or whatever else, right? Now, what we're gonna assume here is that, let's say about 3% of people now, instead of 2% of people, go for that immediate lemonade option, just because there's goodies now. They were already doing it, but now they're saying, wait a second, I can get some extra relic materials. And that 3% of people now represents $65,000, right? That is huge. $65,000. 217 times 300. Yep. So $65,000 are being given to CG here. And I don't know, let's assume the same 3% is buying the delayed options, and they're doing, you know, the 23 upfront payment, and they're going for it. That's another $86,000 for CG, or $151,000 overall. So in the original model, we were making about $71,000 total. And in this model, we're making about $151,000, right? That's pretty damn good. Now, why is CG doing this? Why is EA doing this? Why is Egnards doing this? It's very simple, actually. Way back in 2016, microtransactions were still relatively new. Okay, we've seen them with horse armor back in, I don't know, was it Skyrim or something around there? And people, they spend and they buy and they use them, but they hate them. When it came to mobile games, very, very, very few people were interacting with microtransactions of any cost. It was essentially a whale-only thing. If you look at numbers from around that time period, a lot of games, a lot of independent developers were saying, hey, we were making hundreds of thousands of dollars, but 99.9% of that was coming from 10 to 20 people, where we have thousands of people playing. So essentially, a very large amount of money was being funneled from a very small amount of people. There is a problem there, though, because if any one customer of yours leaves, that is a considerable amount of your revenue, right? And they kind of illustrated this in Mad Men way back in the mid 2000s. I don't want to give it away for those of you that haven't seen it, but I feel like it's been enough time. Somewhere around season 4, season 5, the company that Don Draper works for decides to get rid of their big cigarette advertiser, and that made up like 80% of the revenue for the company as a whole, and it hit them really hard. Why did they do that? Times were changing. Well, 10 years later, times are changing for mobile revenue as well, because there are a lot of people who were in middle school, who were in high school, who are now adults with jobs, who are now contributing to society, and those people, they've always had microtransactions. It's just always been part of gaming for them. It's not as big of a deal. It's becoming a much more accepted practice, even if a lot of us are like, we don't really want it in our games. Even the older generations are now starting to say, hey, we don't like this, but it's here. It's been in every game that I've played for the last decade. I get it. I will spend a few bucks. So the power of the whale is going down a little bit, and the power of the casual spender is going up a lot. And CG is recognizing this. EA is recognizing this. And they're saying, let's try to capture the market of the people who are not spending as much and get them right there a little bit to bolster our revenue overall. Now, this does bring in a really great question, because when we look at the revenue that CG has made on this game, it's not actually accurate. People like to post numbers on Reddit. They like to post numbers on Discord. They come from sites that like Statistica that track revenue for mobile games. But those websites track very specifically based off of Android and Apple numbers. What did CG start doing 2 years ago? They started to funnel all of their customers towards their own web store, and they started to funnel their own customers towards their PC client about a year ago. Not even, maybe 6 months to 12, let's see, I got it August, about 8 months ago. Apple and Android take about 30% of the revenue right off of the bat. So even if CG is losing a little bit, maybe they're losing 20% over what they had before, they're still making 10% more just by being on their own. So again, when we talk about like, the revenue numbers that are coming in, they're going down, right? But that's based off of areas where CG is no longer targeting trying to get more new business. And EA, while they do release numbers because they are a publicly traded company, they aren't required to release numbers per product. That would be ridiculous, right? There's so many products. It would be crazy for a company to attempt to do that. They did in the first couple of years, and that made sense. It made sense to do that because they wanted to show that a certain bet was paying off. But now they just posted their mobile numbers as an overall of all of their games, and it's really hard to gauge how much of that is Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, right? So we kind of have an obfuscated picture of what this looks like for somebody trying to track that stuff, right? So again, why is CG doing this? They're doing this because they want to capture the casual market. But now something new has happened with era battles, right? So we're going to take Egnards Lemonade Stand one more time. We have Egnard with his lemonade stand. He's going to bring up these new era battles. And what Egnards is basically saying now is, hey, listen, I'm going to sell that same lemonade for $217 if you buy it literally right away. But now, not only do you receive those goodies for a week, I'm also going to give you free goodies over the next couple of months. And those next couple of months represent the era battles, right? 4 times a month for the 2 months, 2 times per month for the following 2 months. 2 times a month for the following 2 months, and then, sporadically after that. So if you invest in this early, you're going to get a lot of free stuff. Additionally, we are going to essentially lower the cost of you having to get that marquee right away, right? Just slightly. Sorry, not right away, or the week, but the month and everything. Let's go back to here, right? Blah, 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 blah. The 1 week delivery, the 1 month delivery. These things are going to effectively mostly stay the same. But now what we're doing is we're saying, hey, listen, if you buy the 1 week delivery, which is still $128, right? And it's there. You're also going to get those era battles. You're also going to get all of this free stuff over time. And that means that a lot more people are saying, hey, wait a second. I didn't want to spend that money before, but now I actually think it's worth it, right? This first graph down here, the 1 month delivery, the 2 month delivery, the 3.5 to 5 month delivery, that still represents that $23 upfront investment. So essentially, even if you're free to play farming, even if you're just doing 5 battles a day, you're still paying essentially $23 in converted crystal cost. But because of these era battles and because of the stipulation of extra free shards, and the desire to get characters to 5 stars now instead of 4 stars, we're now talking about a $58 upfront investment, right? And you'll see that the prices actually, again, they increase. But the time to get these things goes down considerably, right? Considerably. So if you're looking to invest in a character for an event specifically, or for a raid specifically, you're saying, hey, wait a second, this might actually make sense for me to do, to part with about 6,000 crystals or $58 in converted crystal cost. And I know at least with this first era battle, a lot of people did it. Even I did it. A lot of people on our Discord are doing it. People are seeing these as free crystals, and they are. They are if they were legitimately free for you, but they're seeing them as free crystals and spending them in droves. And there are even people just saying, you know what? That $50 is actually worth it for me because it saves me 3 months, 4 months. And those people are buying packs. So why is CG giving us all of these free shards? It's because they're trying to not just capture the market of people taking characters to 7 stars, but also capture the market of everybody in between. The people bringing them to 4 stars, the people bringing them to 5 stars, the people bringing them to 6 stars. It is no longer a question of, do I not invest at all? Or do I bring him to 7 stars? It's a question of how far should I invest? And when we talk about things like the raid, we might be talking about, okay, this character I do to 5 stars, this character I do to 3 stars, this character has to go to 7 stars right away, and finding the certain path that works for you. Now, going back to that lemonade stand analogy, we're going to say that the same 3% of people buy an immediate cup of lemonade. Revenue has gone down to $65,000, but now we're going to say about 5% of people jump on all of the other tiers. And that represents $188,000 or $250,000 overall. That is an overall increase. One thing that I do want to point out is that these numbers are based on averages. Because the era battles are not giving you specifically shards of only one character, and those character shards are going to randomize as you go through, you are still getting the equal number of shards, but it may not represent you getting, the first character at 6-7 stars in 3 months, because you might be getting CX2 shards, you might be getting disguised Jedi shards, you might be getting Scorch shards. You don't know, but you still are getting shards overall. And that's really important to keep in mind as well. So why is CG doing this? Again, it's because they want to capture the casual market. They want to capture the player who is highly engaged but doesn't want to spend a ton of money. The person who is willing to spend, let me spend $20 on this month. Because if they get a ton of people spending $20 a month on the Eras pack, on the, not the Eras pack, what is it called? The monthly pack, the episode pack, that represents a bolstering and a redistribution of the wealth within the game, so that, well, yeah, sure, the whales, they're gonna maybe spend a little bit less overall and get further ahead. I don't give a shit about them. A lot of other players don't give a shit about them. Let them live on their high pedestal of whatever the hell they want to live on. But everybody else is now also spending on different things. And this started with like Lightspeed bundles, and this started with other bundles that people saw as really high value. But we already know statistically that anytime a person is willing to spend the first time, it makes it a lot more acceptable for them to spend again. So if I were to summarize all of this, why is CG giving us all of this free stuff? It's because they want to make more revenue by enticing a lot more people. And here's the deal. Is it a bad thing? No, it's not. It honestly isn't. It really is not a big deal. CG is a company. They're a corporate entity. Of course they need to make money. I knew that when I signed up in 2017. I knew that in 2019 when I continued playing. I knew that last year when I whaled on Gungans. I know that this year while I'm making this video. We can complain all we want. We know the whales are always going to get ahead. But realistically, I very rarely am facing them in GAC or in any portion of the game. I don't care if there are 10 accounts that have all Relic 9 characters. All I care about is that the progress that I'm making, and that is what CG is banking on. So, why are they doing this? Because it is a smart money move in 2025 as markets are shifting, right? We talk about things like the economy, we talk about things like global politics, and we're not going to get into those things. But if any of those things affect their small number of whales, revenue drops significantly. If everybody is spending a little bit, right, they don't have to worry about any one player becoming a problem. So, if you have any questions, drop it in the comments, hit us on Discord, let me know what you think. I hope that this semi-accurately makes things clear, helps you understand exactly what is going on in the game right now, and peace out.